Breaking tonight, this very minute in fact, Britain is not just divided, it's at war with itself.
Whenever I get gloomy with the state of the world, I think about the arrivals gate at Heathrow Airport. General opinion's starting to make out that we live in a world of hatred and greed. But I don't see that. It seems to me that love is everywhere. Often it's not particularly dignified or newsworthy, but it's always there.
That was then in 2003, back when Heathrow meant hugs. Now it's more likely to spark a row about borders than warm hearts. Well, tonight, half of Britain says that our culture is changing too fast. With a bombshell new poll, though surprisingly, unsurprising perhaps, showing that 86% of us believe that there is tension between immigrants and British-born Brits. It's a King's College Ipsos poll. Half want the UK back to the way it used to be, and fewer than half say they're proud of it at all. But here's the truth, people haven't stopped loving Britain. They've just been told they're not allowed to show it. The nation voted for Brexit to take back control, not to take the blame.
A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
Still, the same elites sneer at patriotism and mistake pride for prejudice. And tonight, a clear example of the tensions that exist in Britain in 2025. In Birmingham, police have arrested 6 people at the Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv football match.
Every match that the barbaric Israeli establishment or their teams are at, we will be at. Takbir! Takbir!
That is unimaginable just a couple of decades ago. That is Britain. A football game turned into a flashpoint for global politics from thousands of miles away. Israeli fans were banned, of course, from attending that football match over concerns for their safety. Pro-Palestinian protesters outside Villa Park chanted, there was tension and even racist abuse. Once upon a time, sport brought us together. And now it's just another front line in a divided country.
Worried about your privacy online, especially with the new digital ID debates and Online Safety Act in the news? Your mum was right. Some things really don't need sharing, especially with your internet provider, advertisers, or even the owner of that random pub Wi-Fi. All of them can see a lot more than you think. Unless, of course, you're using ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is designed to help you reclaim control. It encrypts your online activity, making it much harder for Wi-Fi owners or third parties, whether that's your boss, landlord, or just someone at the airport, to watch what you are doing online. ExpressVPN has been independently audited 3 times, most recently by KPMG in 2025, who confirmed that ExpressVPN does not keep activity or connection logs. ExpressVPN's encryption is extremely tough, and cracking it would take enormous computing power and many years. With new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely with ExpressVPN keys, plus enjoy greater identity protection features at higher tiers. Live chat support is available 24/7 and typically connects you with a real person in under a minute. If you're ready to try ExpressVPN right now, you can get a plan starting from just $3.49 a month if you purchase a 2-year subscription, which gives you up to 4 extra months for free. Click the link in the description to lock down your privacy and give hackers, trackers, and nosy parkers the boot. Protect your privacy now with ExpressVPN today.
Let's get more with GB News presenter Josh Howie, who was at the game in Birmingham. Josh, good evening. Thank you very much for joining me. You were wearing your Star of David at the football match, we can see there. How was it tonight, Josh? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, it was very surreal because for our safety, there were hundreds of police officers that were escorting us. And I mean, I'm very grateful that they were there, because there were groups of young men who were gathering and who would, you could see, like, had to be like, would shout things at us, and then the police would step in. So yeah, if it hadn't been for the police, I think we would have been in real trouble. I didn't actually get to go to the match. I'm not a football fan, but I just felt that the banning of Israelis or of Jewish fans, because of the authorities kind of being ad hoc to capitulating to Islamist extremists, isn't something that we should stand for as British people or as Jewish people.
So just to remind people, Josh, may not be familiar with it, this match between Tel Aviv and in an Israeli club in an area that is highly populated with Muslims was deemed too dangerous for Israeli fans to travel to go and see the match. Did many of them travel to go, or was it mainly other people from the UK like you?
It was a couple of Israelis went, like literally a handful, who did manage to sneak in, because Aston Villa made it very difficult for anybody to buy tickets. They made a restriction where you could only buy a ticket if you had previously bought Aston Villa tickets. So that, and then the Board of Deputies of British Jews, they tried to get 500 tickets just for British Jewish fans to be able to go, where we could have just gone in straight in on coaches. There would have been no problems at all. Yet that was also run down. So in the end, that couldn't happen. So I know a few people did manage to sneak in and enjoy the match. Like I said, I'm not a football fan. I went as someone who felt like it was important to take a stand against the racist mob of Islamists.
Yeah, I find that it's so remarkable, this story, when you actually stop to think about what's happened, that Jews are being told, don't go and watch football, Josh. It should be sport. It should be apolitical. It should be fun. It should be escapism from the grind of daily life and the politics news cycle. How do we change it? How does anybody move away from this? Or maybe we just can't now. Maybe we just can't change it. There's a ceasefire.
No, I think we can, because I believe that there is the silent majority out there. I believe that this country, that the majority of people in this country know what being British is about in terms of fairness and in terms of tolerance. But what's happened is that we've had the tolerance of the intolerant, and that has been what's been going on over the last few years. And in the case of the police, and like I said, I'm very grateful to the police. If they hadn't been there, frankly, I would have been beaten up or stabbed or anything. So I'm grateful to those frontline officers. But what you've seen higher above is where it's easier for the police to capitulate to the mob and to the extremists within the Muslim community than to take a stand for British values. And when those very vocal groups try and were successful in banning the Israeli fans and the Jewish fans, instead the West Midlands Police and the council should have stood up to them and said, no, that's not who we are about as a country. And they didn't do that. Yeah, damn right. I couldn't agree more. Josh Howie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure it was an emotional night in many ways. Let's get the take of contributor to GB News, Charlie Downs, who joins me now to look at this survey. Charlie, you know, 86% of people in the UK saying there's tension between immigrants and British-born people. In 2023, that was only 74%, and 84% of people feel that the UK is generally divided. That's up from 74%. Why, Charlie? Why do we feel like this?
Well, I think there's a number of things we have to unpack here. The first thing to say is this comes off the back of polling from the Financial Times last week, which indicated that upwards of 80% of the British, it was the British right specifically, so not necessarily the British public at large, but conservative-minded people in this country feel concerned about loss of national identity as a result of mass immigration, felt that the decline of the white population was a concern, felt that the speaking of foreign languages in public spaces was a concern, and similarly a threat to a sense of cohesion in the country. And it's because the issue of immigration is far and away the most salient one for most ordinary people at this point. And there's a number of reasons for that. One is that it is simply observable in one's day-to-day life if one lives in a, even suburban area of this country. It is noticeable that people from all over the world now live in our communities, and it is also a function of the fact that we are seeing increasing numbers of crimes committed by these people. I mean, in the last week alone, Bev, as you know, we've had atrocious crimes committed in this country. The murder of Wayne Broadhurst in Uxbridge, for instance, by a 22-year-old Afghan, allegedly, contempt of court and so on. We won't go into that. But, this was not an English guy, let's say that. And then there was the various other horrible things that have happened. Yeah. And not just this week, but also the grooming gangs, which have dominated headlines this year. And the ongoing crisis at the Channel. And so I think immigration is by far the most pressing issue for a lot of people. And I think it's purely, because of the fact that it is a failed project. And this is why this polling today is so unsurprising to me.
Let's say hello to my panel this evening and bring them into this debate. I've got Niall Gardner here, former aide to Margaret Thatcher, and Angelina McAhey, journalist and broadcaster. Niall, if I can come to you as our Brit, who lives here in America and obviously spent many years in the UK, 48% say they want Britain to be the way it used to be in that poll. What do they mean?
Well, I think it's clear what they mean, actually. They want the restoration of traditional British values, standards, British way of life. I think the mass migration into the UK has been a complete disaster, frankly, and the levels of migration into Britain today are absolutely unacceptable. Most British people have had enough, frankly. And multiculturalism, advanced, of course, by liberal politicians in Britain for many decades, has been a huge failure. It has resulted in rising tensions within society, rising levels of crime and disorder, and as we saw at the Aston Villa game this evening, horrible scenes actually of Islamist extremists hurling racist abuse, anti-Semitic abuse at those attending the game. And these are horrific scenes to see in the heart of Britain today. And the next British government has to take real action, because the Labour government right now under Keir Starmer is doing absolutely nothing at all. In fact, I think they're a big part of the problem. And the next government, likely to be headed by Nigel Farage and Reform, has to take immediate action to secure Britain's borders, but also to deal, of course, with the the massive existing problems here in the United Kingdom. These have to be addressed, and the British people, rightly, I think, have had enough.
So Keir Starmer, of course, would say that he has done what he can to protect Jewish people. Angelina, when you look at those pictures of the UK, you are, of course, an American living in America. Is there any parallels to be drawn? Are there any parallels to be drawn between there and the US in terms of political, racial, religious tension? It feels to me, maybe it's just because we're in Washington, that the tensions here are very much political. It's either you love Donald Trump and the Republicans or you hate him. But do you see that sort of international conflict being brought to the streets of America?
Yeah, I'm seeing it right now, just even in these pictures. Like, how do we identify a UK national from a non-UK national? In those pictures, I'm seeing many white-looking people. So are those UK nationals or are they foreigners? It's not really clear. And also, I think the immigration issue versus the domestic freedom of speech issue are a bit different here. And in America, we're not like the UK. I know you can openly be a Nazi in America, and I don't think that is the case in the UK. So in terms of this saying, anti-Semitic chants, again, Nazis in America do that all the time. So it's a lot more normal here in America to see that kind of hateful speech, because it is protected by the First Amendment. Whether you like it or not, it's protected by the First Amendment. Of course, violence or harm towards another person is not protected, and those people should be arrested. But any kind of speech is protected, whether you like it or not. So that, I know that's not the case in the UK. There are a bit of differences there.
Fewer than half of the people, Charlie, in this survey, 46%, said they feel proud of the UK. That's down 10% from 5 years ago. What is happening there? Why don't we feel proud of the country?
Well, this is especially the case among people in my kind of age group. I had a conversation with a young guy called Elliot Buick recently. He has a podcast, and he's, a very ordinary young guy, lives in Britain, was born and raised in Britain. But he said this to me. He said that he and his friends don't feel proud to be British, and it's because Britain's kind of in a bit of an embarrassing state, in the modern day. And when I travel, I often, when I tell people that I'm from Britain, their first response will be my condolences. Their first response will be, it's a shame to see what's happening to your country. And I think this is largely the reason that people don't feel proud to be British. It's because of the British government. And what I say to people who say that is, look, we are not our government. I think we should still absolutely be proud to be British. And that's not because of some vapid, superficial idea about British values, which I think is a very modern and pervasive idea, because British values are, they're abstract, they're ahistorical in the way that they are enshrined in law, being things like democracy and tolerance and, faith, mutual respect for different faiths and beliefs and this sort of thing. What we should be proud of is our role in history as a protagonist, a defender of reason and faith and truth, and as being essentially uncompromising on those matters until literally the last 5 minutes, when our leaders decided to do a complete 180 on those issues and decided to take aim at everything that made this country great. And so I think that it is that malaise that people are speaking to when they say that they aren't proud to be British. But actually, I do think there is a very deep sense of patriotism in most people in this country, and it just needs to be reawakened. And I think that is what a lot of this polling is suggesting is happening. I think the support for reform is certainly an expression of this. But I also think that, I don't know that people have a clear idea about what Britain is anymore. And this is another thing. We've been, the identity has been so diluted.
Yeah, and we've never been taught that it matters. So why would you feel proud of something because you've not been told that it's important? Charlie Downs, thank you so much. Charlie has a podcast with GB News, which you can find on our YouTube channel. Just to let you know that Keir Starmer obviously would say that he's spent £10 million paying for security staff around Jewish sites tonight in defence of any accusation that he's neglected people in the UK.